I always have to commission an illustrator. So for yourself, being able to do both, that is happy days.
Yeah, I love doing both. I mean, apart from anything else, you get to use two different sides of your brain, so it keeps things interesting. I spend half my time writing, half my time illustrating, so it keeps it varied. Monday, I recorded the first video. Tuesday, I put it up on YouTube. On the Wednesday, so many thousands of children across the world had watched the video that I was on news at 10 that night. And so suddenly I found myself being like an influencer. I had this viral hit on my hand. So I was doing these videos and
You and Joe Wicks, right? And there's no right or wrong, isn't there, I believe, in terms of drawing. That's why probably I was led to believe that I can't draw, but actually...
Anyone can draw.
Anyone
Laura.
can draw. I'm going to get this.
You should get this.
In this episode of My Words, My Book, we have Rob Biddulph. He is a best-selling and multi-award-winning children's author and illustrator. In March 2020, he started Draw with Rob during the coronavirus pandemic, which resulted in Rob breaking the Guinness World Record for the largest online art class. Rob has won many awards, including the recent Illustrator of the Year at the British Book Awards, the Nibbies. He lives in London with his wife and 3 daughters and Ringo the dog. Hi, Rob. Why did you become an author?
Well, that's a big question. I think initially, well, it's something that I was always interested in. Children's books have played a big part of my life when I was a child and even into adulthood. I did a fair amount of children's illustration when I was at art college. And then I kind of pivoted and chose a career in graphic design, which I loved. But then when my children were little, started buying picture books to read to them at bedtime. And I thought, ooh, yeah, that looks like a nice job, writing picture books, illustrating children's books. I'm going to have a go. I didn't really know how to do it, but I thought, right, if you don't try something, you never know whether you can do it or not. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to have a go. I think at the time I was working on magazines, which is a lovely job, but it's very much a kind of a team sport, which is great, but sometimes it's frustrating, particularly if you're a designer. I was the art director. So I would go into the boardroom with, 10, 15 covers for that week's issue of the magazine. And the editor would put them out on the table and he would invite everyone from the office in to kind of give their opinion on these magazines. And quite often the cover that I like best wouldn't be the one that would be chosen. So it could be frustrating. So the idea of making a children's book, which I would write, I would illustrate, I would kind of be involved in the entire process from start to finish, really, really appealed to me at the time. I think making a children's book is very much like making a film. You get to cast it, you get to light it, you get to direct it, you get to write the dialogue. And at the end of the day, what's on the bookshelf is pretty much your own vision. So yeah, that's kind of why I got into it. I think there was a creative itch that I needed to scratch.
To get out, yes, into the world.
Exactly.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
It actually happened.
Yeah.
So in terms of that, when you was at university, is that your degree? What was your degree?
So my degree, first I went, when you do an art degree, you spend the first year doing something called a foundation course, where you sort of try everything out. You do a bit of painting, a bit of life drawing, a bit of photography, a bit of ceramics. You try everything. And I did that. I went into that thinking I want to be a painter. And then during that foundation year, somebody said, well, you don't make any money if you're a painter until after you're dead, usually. So I thought, I'd quite like to make some money while I'm still alive. So that's when I thought, I really got into graphic design and layout and typography and that sort of thing. So I then went and did my degree in graphic design. But I always sort of was quite illustrative in my graphic design. But yeah, graphic design officially is my degree.
And then what was your first book, Rob, that came out?
So my first book, well, I did a couple of freelance illustration jobs while I was still working on magazines. So I did a Hello Kitty book. It was called Hello Kitty, Hello Love, which nominally is an illustration job, but actually really is a design job because you've got so many rules you have to follow for Sanrio, the Japanese company that make Hello Kitty. So you're basically taking the character and then adding little bits of design elements in the background, but very much in the Hello Kitty style. But it did teach me a lot about pacing and, you know, color palettes, that sort of thing. And I did another sort of horror themed book. I think it was called Fright Night something. It was one of those books with flaps and moving things. So I did one of those, but I don't really count them as my first book, because the first book that I wrote and did was called Blown Away. So that came out in 2014. And it's about a little penguin who goes flying a kite on a windy day, and he ends up getting blown away across the sea and has to think of a clever way of getting back. He lands up in a jungle island. Penguins aren't meant to be in jungle islands, so he has to think of a clever way of getting back home. And yeah, that came out in 2014, and I was very, very lucky, because that one won the Waterstones Children's Book Prize. So it got my career off to a really flying start, literally. And yeah, so I feel very, very lucky, because suddenly, you know, when you win that prize, your book's in the window of every Waterstones for a month.
Absolutely.
So suddenly you become a known quantity within that world, and, you know, people are waiting for your next book. So I feel very, very lucky that I had such a nice start to my writing career.
Exactly. And I think, just to add on there, as we are talking about book prizes, recently you won the Nibbies. You just want to talk us through that? Because I think that was amazing when I saw that on the social media.
It was amazing. So the Nibbies is the British Book Awards, which is the, you know, the big one, really. And so yeah, I was shortlisted for Illustrator of the Year, and an amazing shortlist. I mean, so many of my like heroes were in that shortlist. So I literally didn't think I stood a chance. I was just very happy to be in the mix, you know. And sometimes at these awards things, you have a bit of an inkling as to whether you've won before you go. Your publisher gets told sometimes, and they say, yeah, you know, you need to come to
You
this
need to
one.
be there.
No one said that to me. And even when I turned up on the night, my agent and my editor and my publicist, they were there, and they were saying, let's just have a nice night. You know, that was very much the tone. We're just going to have a nice time. It doesn't matter if you win or not. So I don't think anyone expected it. And then, so I had no speech prepared. I had nothing. So when they started saying, you know, the introduction, it was Jacqueline Wilson who was presenting the award as well, who is a huge
No
hero of
pressure.
mine. No pressure. And she started saying who'd won it, and became obvious that it was me. I was like, oh my gosh, you know, what am I going to say? You know, it was like it was total shock. And of course, they filmed the speech and everything. And when I look at myself in the speech, I can tell I'm sort of wide-eyed and bewildered. But what an amazing, I still can't quite believe it, actually.
No, but well done. I think it is richly deserved, Rob. I think, thank you, you know, and thank you for all that you do with your books, and because it's been, I think, worldwide, your books are sold. And one thing you touched there on the evening, you mentioned a fantastic colleague who's very much involved with both of us.
Yeah.
Agent, that term. And I know a lot of children always ask me, what is an agent? And we've both got the same agent,
We have.
Jodie, who's absolutely amazing. So I think it's important for, I think, other authors and children, emerging authors especially, what an agent does for you as an author.
Yeah. Well, I guess an agent, their role is to be a kind of a middle person between you and publishers, right? But I think their role is much, much more than that, because actually they're the first port of call for me. I'm sure for you as well. Jodie is the first person I speak to about any creative project that I do. And also, if anybody wants me to do something for them, they will go to Jodie first, and then so she will present these kind of options to me. So pretty soon you develop a really kind of close working relationship, and you have to have a really trusting relationship with your agent. So what will happen is at the beginning of my career, for example, I will write my stories, and Jodie will be the first person that I send them to. And then she might say, maybe you should think about doing this or that. She might tweak things, she might not. And then once we are both happy, then she will take it out to publishers. It's not the author usually that sends their book into a publisher. It goes via an agent, because most publishers, if you think about it, if people could just send their books into publishers, they would be inundated, right? Loads of people want to do this job. And so the agents kind of act as a filter. So most big publishers only accept manuscripts from agents. So the agent will get sent all of the work. They will filter it down to the things they like. They will work with those clients, and then they will submit to publishers on the client's behalf. So yeah, so your agent is a hugely, hugely important part of the process. And there are people that don't have agents, they represent themselves. But actually, I think, for me anyway, I would really be missing out on something if I didn't have that support from Jodie. And she's, well, as you know, she's so experienced. She's got such a wise head. She's read every single children's book you can ever think of in every genre. So her knowledge of this medium is second to none, much better than mine. So, I'm really, really trust her opinion on everything, as I'm sure
Exactly.
you do.
Exactly. And there we have it for an agent.
There we go. That's what an
Sometimes we
agent
talk
is.
about editors, illustrators, but because you do the job of both author and illustrator, which I think is interesting to maybe to talk about that, because myself as an author, we always have to commission an illustrator. So for yourself being able to do both, that is happy days,
It
I
is.
suppose. I mean, I can't draw, but to have that skill, it just must be that you can do both.
Yeah, I love doing both. I mean, apart from anything else, you get to use two different sides of your brain, so it keeps things interesting. I spend half my time writing, half my time illustrating, so it keeps it varied. But I think, especially with picture books, that you're telling a story twice. You're telling it with the words, you're telling one part of the narrative with the words, and then you're telling a much bigger part of the narrative with the pictures. They say a picture paints 1,000 words, right? So with my picture books, I try to include lots of little details, lots of little things in the pictures that I don't mention in the text that kind of add to the story. They augment the story. And quite often I have another story running parallel to the main thread, just as a visual story in the background, a couple of little characters doing something throughout the thread, which I think, especially with picture books, when children are, parents are reading the story, but the kids are just looking at the pictures when they're little. So they are poring over those details. So you really have to speak to the children who are looking at the pictures as much as the parent who is reading the words. And I love the challenge of doing both of those jobs because they are different. But yeah, I do feel lucky to be able to do both. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. You tell me. I bet it's an exciting moment when you first see the illustrations for your story come back.
Oh, it's amazing when you see, and especially if you visualize it, because as an author, how I work, I know if we were to line up 10 authors here now, they will have a different take on how they work with their illustrator.
Yeah.
I'm all about relationships, hence probably why I do this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm a people person. So I always like to get to know the illustrator initially in the process. Depending on geography, we would have met once for a coffee or a bite to eat. And the way that I do it, I create like a storyboard of my ideas, like my characters, Maya and Marley. I then sent through images in terms of what they were to look like, the goats, the adventure playground, etc.
Yeah.
So then I share that with the publisher, who in turn then the designer shares it with the illustrator. But I know some other authors who may just give the script straight away to the illustrator, and then the illustrator comes up with the concept. As a dyslexic, I'm very visual. So when I write and come up with the characters, the plot, the scenes, I'm visualizing that. So I might say, okay, this is what I'm thinking. So whether or not that's a help or hindrance to an illustrator, I don't know, but thus far it has been extremely positive.
Well, illustrator's point of view, I would love that. I would
Okay,
really
yes,
like that
yeah.
direction. I've had both. I have illustrated books for other people in the past. I don't do
What's
it.
your diary like the next 2 years?
Well, I was about to say I haven't done it for a while just because my diary is absolutely crazy. But I would much prefer somebody to come and give me a really strong steer on what they want. And even, yeah, little scamps, little sketches of how they see things, how characters look. Oh, I would love that.
Yeah, and I think, and then sometimes they add their own twist onto that, which I think is fantastic. But because I think I have that as in my head, the images floating around, and they may come back and say, well, okay, Laura, I'm thinking this. And that's absolutely fine. Or the designer or the editor will come in and say, well, no, we're thinking this. I think, oh no, that's a really good idea. And that comes back, I think, to your point, Rob. And I always share this on my travels when I'm in schools, festivals, etc. 2 weeks' time, I'm in Glastonbury.
Oh, nice.
Just dropping that
Really?
in, yeah.
Oh, fabulous. Pyramid stage?
No, just
Oh, okay.
kids
Okay.
field.
Okay. Maybe next year, pyramid. Yeah.
Maybe next year. But it's a teamwork. I'm part of that jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
I am the writer, but there's so many other people involved in writing a children's book to get this out into shops, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it is a team sport. It really is. Yeah, yeah.
I'm looking at you now currently. I'm really chomping at the bit to ask you this question because every single time I see you in a photograph or in a clip, why do you wear a cap? I feel like I'm a child now, an inquisitive child
It is a very
saying
good
what I
question.
see.
It's a very good
Yeah,
question. I get
yeah.
asked it a lot. The reason is, in lockdown, I did this thing called Draw with Rob. Draw with Rob. So what that was I remember sitting there watching the news on a Sunday night back in March of 2020 with my wife, and they said, right, we're going to close all the schools. Tomorrow, schools will be shut. So I thought to myself, wow, there's going to be lots of children stuck at home looking for things to do while they're at home. I think I can help here. I've done lots of all of my live events, I do draw-alongs. I've recorded myself, videoed myself doing draw-alongs in the past. I will record myself drawing my characters, showing kids how to draw my characters a couple of times a week, put them up online. It might keep kids busy, right, for a couple of times a week. So that was a Sunday. Monday, I recorded the first video. Tuesday, I put it up on YouTube. On the Wednesday, so many thousands of children across the world had watched the video that I was on News at 10 that night. It was, I cannot tell you how crazy it was. It was mad and beautiful, lovely. And so suddenly I found myself being like an influencer. I had this viral hit, man. So I was doing these videos and
You and
literally,
Joe Wicks,
yeah,
right?
me. So I met Joe actually
Yes, yeah.
a few years later at the Bath Literary Festival, and I think we were doing consecutive events. And I said to him, we should have been on government payroll. You were doing art, you were doing PE, I was doing art. But it was basically that. It was PE with Joe, then it was Draw with Rob. But because of that, I suddenly found myself being interviewed on TV and all over the place, and you couldn't get your hair cut in lockdown.
That's
So my hair was
right,
just
yeah.
going, and I thought, oh, I need to. So I put the cat on, and then before I knew it, that was my look. Suddenly, kids now dress as me for World Book Day. They put the glasses, stripy top, hat, and so I feel like it's my uniform now, and I can't really not wear it. And do you know what? I quite like it because you can take it off.
That's right, exactly. Yes, yeah.
But I don't always, I go on, sometimes I'm on holiday and I've got this on, and then somebody ran up to me in, Rome airport, which is actually lovely. It's very, very nice when that happens. But yeah, I have got a look, and Jodie will say, but it's really, it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
It
You've
is,
got a
isn't it?
brand, she
It's
says.
your brand.
Yeah.
It is your brand, isn't it?
But
Yes,
yeah, I do
yeah.
sometimes, when it's a summer's day and I'm doing a festival, I'm like, why did I do this? But hey.
And have you got a few? Have you got a few?
I've got loads.
Okay.
They're all pretty much the same.
Yeah,
They're all pretty
yeah.
much the same, but I have got quite a few,
Oh,
yeah.
amazing. That's really good. That's a fantastic story, isn't it? And I can't believe it was 5 years ago. It was lockdown. It seems longer than that to me.
I think time's elastic when you think about lockdown. In lots of ways, it's longer than that. Sometimes it feels like no time at all since it's gone. But yeah, what a strange old time. Weirdly, my children did quite well in lockdown. Lots of children didn't, and that's terrible. But mine quite liked being at home, and they got on well with the online schooling and that sort of thing. And we had quite a night, I look back on it quite fondly because we would have film nights. We have a dog, so we'd all go out and walk the dog together. And we became this really tight little unit at home. So strangely, I look back on it quite fondly, but of course, most people don't. I'm aware
Yes,
of
in
that,
true,
but
absolutely.
yeah, what a strange,
It was, wasn't it?
for the
Yeah.
further we get away from it, actually, the more you sort of think,
Did it
wow,
happen?
yeah, did this
Absolutely.
actually, was it a dream?
Yes.
It's strange, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Absolutely. So in terms of books, Rob, as a child, what was your favorite book as a child?
Well, so I get asked this question quite a lot. I have a few. So the first book I can ever remember reading, so I think I was about 4 or 5 in reception, was Dogger by Shirley Hughes. I absolutely loved that book. I can remember the beats of the story, and I've got these really vivid pictures in my head from when I was 5 years old. So that one really, really stuck with me. And actually, my latest picture book is called I Follow the Fox, and that's all about a little boy who loses a toy. And it's very much, building on that, the emotion of that kind of universal experience that children have and that parents have of when a child loses a favorite toy. It's a very traumatic experience. So it's kind of a ripe subject, I think, for a book. And Dogger is the best exponent of that particular subject matter. So I absolutely love Dogger. Of course, The Tiger Who Came to Tea, which is most people's favorite. I absolutely love that, particularly the spread, the sort of the nighttime spread at the end of the book when Dad comes home and they go out to a cafe to have their dinner, which for me as a child was impossibly exotic. What, they're going to a cafe for their tea? They can have fish fingers, chips and beans or something in a cafe? Wow. I couldn't think of anything more exciting. And there's something about that illustration, the lights at night time, the twinkly lights in the street. Again, with me, maybe I'm a bit like you. I have a visual memory, so it's these pictures that really stick with me. But if you were to ask me who my favorite author of children's books was and is, I would say Richard Scarry.
Okay.
So he does those really big, oversized books which have these amazing illustrations packed full of detail. Um, my favorite of his is called What Do People Do All Day? And he populates his world with lots of animals. So there's cats and dog characters and worms and hippos and all sorts of things. But he does these big sort of cityscape scenes where you just have to spot all the detail. And my favorite, again, the illustration that really sticks in my mind is this cross section of a ship, and you can see all the rooms inside, the propeller blades and what all the little characters are doing on this ship. And I would just read that with my parents, and I spend hours again looking through the pictures, spotting the detail, trying to spot the little, gold bug little character on each spread. And sure enough, when my own children were little, we would do exactly the same. We'd spend hours just on one spread, and I would say, right, can you find, Huckle the cat? Can you find the car that looks like a pencil? And Poppy or Kitty would look around for ages trying to find them. And so I think though he's my favorite purely because you can be reading his book for the 20th time and spot something new.
Absolutely. And I think that's the beauty of illustrations in books, isn't it? That is just it's a wonderful thing just to see the illustrations. And like yourself, every time I reread a book, even my books, I'm always picking up something new. And that's just to expand on that as an illustrator. Have you ever done any concept art for animations at all?
I haven't actually. That's not a field I ever really have got into. Um, well, I do have a few irons in the fire, which I'm not meant to
No.
talk about really, but I've
Yes,
got a
okay.
few.
You can tell me.
Yeah, I'll tell you afterwards.
After
But
off
off
camera.
camera. But I do have a few things on the go which I've slightly dipped my toe into that world, and I love seeing my illustrations brought to life. Our, publishers make book trailers sometimes, don't they? And they will animate your little characters, and I love it. It's such a thrill to see that happen. And I have done a little bit of rudimentary animation myself, tiny little bit. I did some at college, and I've done some more recently, and I really love it. But no, I haven't done any kind of concept sketches. But I would like, it's something maybe one day.
Noted.
Noted.
Okay, so here we are, this talking about illustrations and
Yeah.
this bright, lovely colour of a book. Draw with Rob, fantastic food.
Yes.
Please, can we have a summary? What is it all about, Rob?
So the Draw with Rob thing that I spoke about earlier, people started quite early on. I was doing 2 a week, these videos, right? And people started to say to me, can you do one every day, please? Parents, I was like, well, no, because I have to
Yes,
write some books. At some point, I
exactly.
have a
Yeah.
day job. So we decided to make some Draw with Rob activity books that I could, send out into the world so that when I wasn't doing a video, kids could pick up these books and they could still be drawing along with me. I'm very keen on encouraging kids to draw, to use their hands to do something in the physical world. So yeah, this is the latest one in the activity book series. Fantastic food. The reason I decided to do, so basically it's lots of food characters that I just stick eyes and a mouth on and turn them into characters. Because the other thing about Draw with Rob, I've done there's 200 videos up on YouTube, all completely free. Kids, feel free to watch them, look them up. It's free, totally free, good fun. But it's a great research tool. So I'll do videos of, all different types of animals, from, pandas to sausage dogs to axolotls. I didn't know what an axolotl was, but lots of kids started to ask me to do an axolotl. So now I know what an axolotl is. But you can tell which videos are more popular than others. You can tell by the views. You can tell by I get sent pictures every single day of my life, which is lovely, from kids, holding up their drawings. And you can tell which ones they really like. And whenever I've done like an anthropomorphized food character, they're really, really popular. So I said to Alice, my editor, I said, right, I think we should do a whole book of this. And do you know what? It's really, really fun to draw these characters and sort of have a little play in the world of food. And it's such a colourful, vibrant kind of visual language, and also relatable. We all eat food, so it's good
And I was
fun.
just about to say that, and I think for many children, food is central, isn't it? And I think for children, there's so many extension activities that can be done. That's probably why the video clips are quite popular, and this book for many children. Yes, yeah. Amazing. So do you have a favorite page in this book?
I have a few. The one that I really liked drawing, I'm going to say, is this spread here.
Yes.
So we have biscuits and crisps. I don't know what that says about me, but
Yes, yeah.
I really like
And all
drawing.
my favorite biscuits are on there
Yeah,
as
well,
well.
mine too. Maybe
Yeah.
we're of a similar vintage, and
Yes, yeah.
those kind of the original 70s and 80s biscuits. They're the ones I like, the bourbons and the chocolate digestives, custard creams, and it was really fun just going in and drawing these characters. And I think it's a really nice, colourful spread. And I got to draw a twiglet with a face on it. I mean, what's not to love about that? Skips, frazzles. It was really,
That
really
is
fun.
really because I remember, at family functions, the twiglets and
Twiglets would be out,
yes,
and a
yeah,
bowl full of
frazzles.
frazzles. Monster Munch, I've got a Monster Munch in there. So that's the one I like drawing the best. And I think my favourite spread is probably this one. So I decided I was going to do lots of sushi characters. And so what I like to do is do a drawing which I leave space for the kids to finish off the drawing. So I did this little bento box here, surrounded by my cute sushi characters, and the kids get to finish it all off. And the great thing about these books is we've got perforated edges here. So the pages, you can tear them out really easily, stick them up on the fridge or on the wall, because art and drawing is meant to be enjoyed and displayed.
And there's no right or wrong, isn't there, I believe, in terms of drawing. That's why probably I was led to believe that I can't draw, but actually
Anyone can draw,
anyone
Laura.
can draw. So I probably can do, but it's just my version.
Well, I say this to kids every single one of
I'm going to get this.
you should get this. Every single one of my live shows, we do a draw along, and I say to kids, lots of people tell me that they're rubbish at drawing, and I say, well, that is nonsense, because as you said, there is no right or wrong answer with drawing. It's not like maths. It's subjective, right? Some people would like one drawing, some people would like another. So I say everyone can draw. Some people, I will concede, some people, maybe you, need a bit of help with the order that we do the drawing in, which is where I come in, because I break these
Come to one
drawings.
of your next
Come
sessions.
to one of my sessions. We break it down into bite-sized pieces. So, I'll just draw a circle or a line, and then you can copy me. And then by the end, we put it all together, and we've got a work of art.
Then I can start illustrating my own books. There we are.
This is it.
There we are.
we're going to get you there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what the beauty of that is, I remember, our dear colleague and friend, Michael Rosen, him and I were doing keynotes a couple of years ago. And one of the things that really resonated with me, what he said on the stage, it was to a group of head teachers that, you get this child who's been sent to your room as a head teacher because of their behavior. Rather than scolding them, just say to them what's going on for you. Ask them to write or draw what's going on for them. And I believe for many children, when we're talking about art therapy, to express their emotions, I think it's a wonderful
Oh, it
thing.
really is. Yeah. And I think it's a great learning tool as well. Drawing specifically, I think, and writing stories, but doing something creative, particularly drawing, you know, yeah, I mean, I've just done this video recently, which is about online safety. And I show the kids we're drawing like an online safety champion in a sort of manga style, and as I'm showing them how to draw this character, we're talking about the issues in hand, and the kids, it just seems to go in, the information goes in as they're drawing. And I think there's something about that physical action, that connectivity between the brain and the hand while listening to something, it just sticks. And when I show kids how to draw my characters, they will come up to me at a festival or an event a year later, and they will draw the character, but they can still draw the character from a year before, because that process, breaking a drawing
Yeah,
down into
muscle
parts, it's
memory.
muscle memory.
That's right.
So yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So if you was interviewing yourself, Rob, what question would you ask yourself about this book?
About this book,
About this book?
um, oh, that is a good question. I would say, why are you so obsessed with putting eyes on various bits of food? No, what would I say? Okay, I would ask myself, what is it that kids can get out of drawing? What is the benefit of drawing with children, for children? And I would say, particularly, there's lots of children who are hugely creative, particularly the age group that will be reading this book. So let's say I get kids doing these books from about 3, believe it or not, up to about 12 or 13. But at the younger end of the spectrum, I think they have a lot to say. They have a lot of creativity inside them that they want to express. And actually drawing is something that comes to children before reading and before writing. So particularly, I would say those kids at the younger age group will get a lot out of this book. So that is one of the main reasons why I really love making these books, and why I like making the videos too, because you wouldn't believe the pictures I get sent from 3-year-old kids. They're so good, and they're so full of character, and they take the characters that I show them how to draw in this book, and they will write a whole comic strip for them, even at 3, 4, 5 years old. And the words, you can't read it. It's not the words that the letters that they're using aren't letters that I necessarily recognize, but it means something to them, and it's a way of taking what's inside them and putting it out into the world. And that's what I'm most proud of when I meet kids and they show me the drawings that they've done based on the stuff in books like this. So yeah.
That's an amazing answer. And I think you've answered the next question slightly in terms of what do you hope the impact of Draw with Rob, Fantastic Food, will be for children in terms of the learning?
Well, hopefully it means that they're less they're less they have less inhibitions about expressing themselves in an artistic way. I find with children that they're usually really, really confident about drawing until they hit about 8, 9, 10 years old, and then maybe they think, oh, there's so and so in my class is the one who's good at drawing. It's not me. It's not for me, and they just sort of stop. They stop doing it, and then they go to secondary school. And they don't really engage with art because they've told themselves they're not an artist. And I can't tell you how many adults, especially in lockdown, so many adults were drawing along with me, and they would write to me saying, this is the first time I've picked up a pencil since I was at primary school and drawn a picture. And I love it because drawing is therapeutic. It's great for so many things, for mindfulness, for well-being, for improving concentration span. And so I hope that by learning to draw these simple characters in these books and on my videos, that kids develop enough confidence that when they hit that hurdle, when they're sort of 8, 9, 10 years old, that they can realize that actually, no, I am an artist. I might not be able to draw a picture that looks like a photograph, like so and so in my class can, but I can express myself in my way. If you go to the Tate Modern and you look at the paintings on the walls, they're not all beautiful Renaissance portraits that look like photographs, are they? They're not. Look at somebody like David Hockney, Picasso, these guys, David Shrigley, really famous illustrator. They express themselves in quite primitive ways.
Absolutely. Yeah, and they are still an artist.
They're still an artist, and their art form is just as valid as Leonardo da Vinci's. You know, I really do believe
And
that.
I think that is a beautiful message to share with children, that actually, you shouldn't be told that you're not an artist, you're not a creative, because actually it is subjective. And that what you have created is still amazing, because that's how you've interpreted what you've seen
That's
or
how you
what's
see
going
the
on in
world.
yeah,
Exactly.
exactly,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And Rob, I think that's a beautiful point to finish up on. So thank you so much, Rob. I think you've shared so many gems. We've covered quite a lot within this interview, actually. And the book, Draw with Rob, fantastic food. Please read this book. And I always say, remember to use your local library if you can. And to finish up on, keep on reading and reading and reading. And thank you to Rob.
Oh, thank you. It's been lovely being here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. This podcast was woven in partnership with our friends at Tapestry, the childhood education platform. They have kindly devised the educational resources for each podcast interview. Tapestry helps you celebrate children's learning, improve communication with families, and streamline your admin with powerful booking, invoicing, and management tools, giving you more time for what matters, the children and you. Visit tapestry.info to find out more. This podcast series was recorded at the Quick Brown Fox Video Production Studios in Wandsworth Town, London, with top-notch equipment and a knowledgeable team who are always happy to help. Recording our podcast has been a breeze.